There is something most people never learn, even after years of spiritual searching. Manifesting techniques, journaling, affirmations, meditation, and trying to stay positive. It is this: you cannot force your way to bliss from a place of despair. You cannot jump from emotional rock bottom to emotional enlightenment in a single leap. And the important part is that you do not have to. Most people try to skip the actual journey. They want to go from fear straight into freedom, from frustration straight into clarity, from self-doubt straight into unshakable belief. But consciousness does not work like that. Frequency does not work like that. Your internal guidance system does not work like that. There is an emotional scale woven into the structure of human experience, a spectrum that ranges from deep powerlessness all the way up to joy, clarity, knowing, and bliss. The distance between these states is not just conceptual, it is vibrational. You feel the difference in your body, your breath, your thoughts, your chemistry, and your responses. When you feel joy or appreciation, you know exactly how that feels inside your chest and your mind. When you feel despair or depression, that sensation is unmistakable as well. These emotional states are not moral labels or grades or judgments. They are indicators. Real-time readings of where you currently stand in relation to the version of you that you have already become. Here is the part most people miss. Your desires always rise faster than your emotions. Your wants expand instantly, but your energy does not. When something happens in your life, a contrast, a disappointment, a fear, a loss, or a trigger, a new desire is born immediately. A part of you shoots forward into a higher state of clarity, wanting, and expansion. Your emotions do not instantly match that expansion. They take time to acclimate, take time to travel upward on the scale. This gap, the space between the desire you have launched and the emotional state you are in right now, is the source of all discomfort. It is not that you are failing. It is not that you are blocked or broken. It is simply that your frequency has not yet caught up with the version of you that already expanded. When people say, just follow your bliss, it sounds beautiful, but only if you have access to bliss. When you are in despair, you do not. You cannot even imagine it. Your mind cannot receive the frequency of bliss while sitting inside the frequency of fear. This is not because you are weak. It is because you are tuned to a different emotional bandwidth. The universe or source or consciousness responds to what you are steady in. It does not respond to what you wish you felt. It responds to how you actually feel, because how you feel reveals the signal you are broadcasting. If you are steady in despair, the algorithm of consciousness brings you more despair-flavored thoughts. If you are steady in frustration, it brings you more frustrating thoughts. If you are steady in joy, it meets you with joyful impulses, ideas, and moments of clarity. Well, this is not punishment. It is mechanics. It is alignment and resonance. This is why trying to force yourself to be happy when you are not is one of the most painful things a human can attempt. It disconnects you further. It widens the vibrational gap and makes you feel as if your own mind is fighting itself. So instead of trying to teleport to bliss, your real work, the only work that ever matters, is to find the next thought that feels even a little bit better, and then the next one, and then the next one. You are not reaching for bliss. You are reaching for relief. Relief is the bridge. Relief is the recalibration. Relief is the emotional technology that lets you rise on the scale without resistance. If you are angry, you look for a thought that feels slightly less angry. If you are overwhelmed, you look for a thought that feels slightly more manageable. If you are hopeless, you look for a thought that feels a little less heavy. These micro movements are not small. They are monumental. They are the steps that shift your entire timeline. Once you begin to experience small pockets of relief, your emotional momentum begins to turn. Your system starts to soften. You breathe differently, you interpret differently, and you receive differently. People often misunderstand this because they think the universe responds to what they want. The universe responds to the vibration underneath the want. It responds to your dominant feeling. The way you feel right now is your indicator of which manifestations you are moving toward. There are people who appear sick but are emotionally traveling toward wellness. You can feel it in them. They feel more hopeful, more appreciative, lighter, and more trusting. Their bodies have not yet caught up, but their frequency already has. There are also people who appear physically fine but are emotionally traveling toward illness or burnout. Their thoughts are fearful, angry, pressured, or self-critical. Their external looks stable, but their inner signal is moving toward imbalance. Nothing ever comes out of nowhere. Every manifestation is preceded by a vibrational run-up, a practiced emotional pattern, repeated thoughts, inner stances, and stories. Humans practice unwanted frequencies far more often than they realize. You are not doing this on purpose. You're simply reacting to what is in front of you, activating it with your attention, and accidentally putting it into your personal pie. This leads into another difficult teaching. Whatever you consistently give your attention to becomes active in your vibration, even if you are pushing against it. Saying yes to something includes it.
Ow.
Saying no to something also includes it, because you are still focused on it. There is no real exclusion in a vibrational universe, only inclusion by attention. You do not need to remove unwanted ingredients from the world in order to live peacefully. You only need to stop putting those ingredients into your own pie. Nobody else has access to your pie unless you point at their pie and worry about what is inside of it until you activate it in yourself. This is why it is essential to become selective with your focus. Not selective in a moral sense, but in a vibrational sense. Every subject has wanted and unwanted ends. Health and illness, abundance and lack, clarity and confusion. Where you place your attention on that subject determines which end becomes active for you. Remember that you have a buffer of time. Manifestation does not appear the moment you think about it. There is a delay, a grace period, while the vibration builds and stabilizes. That buffer exists so you can shift before the physical reality catches up. You are not fragile, and you are not at the mercy of every thought. You have space and agency to guide your emotional direction. At the center of all of this is a deeper truth. Your well-being is the default. Your alignment is the baseline. Your connection is constant. There is no separate source of darkness working against you. There is only light, which you can allow or resist. You do not walk into a room and look for a dark switch. Darkness is simply the absence of light. In the same way, unwanted manifestations do not come from a separate negative power. They arise when attention energizes something you do not prefer. Not because you deserve it or failed, but because the system responds to focus, not preference. You're always free to shift your focus. The fastest way to shift your focus is to make peace with where you are. This does not mean giving up. It does not mean pretending to like what you hate. It means dropping the fight, even for a moment, so that your nervous system can stop bracing and start listening again. When you make peace with where you are, your resistance softens and the emotional scale opens. Your vibration rises more naturally, your manifestations speed up, your clarity returns, and your next steps reveal themselves. Making peace with where you are does not freeze your life. It liberates it. Peace is alignment. Alignment is movement. Movement is creation. You were always meant to evolve and to grow. You were always meant to launch new desires. Contrast will never stop, and that is not a problem. It is the engine of expansion. Every new desire you launch instantly becomes available to you. Your inner being goes with it. Your path lights up, and your next version is born. Your only task is to close the emotional gap between where you stand and the version of you that already expanded. You close that gap through relief, through gentleness, through less fighting, through softer thoughts, tiny shifts in emotional honesty. When you reach for the best feeling thought available to you right now, not the best thought imaginable, just the best you can genuinely touch, you start climbing the scale without tearing yourself apart. Relief becomes momentum. Momentum becomes clarity. Clarity becomes inspiration. Inspiration becomes alignment. Alignment becomes manifestation. Manifestation becomes your new platform. Then contrast arises again. A new desire launches. You expand again. You rise again. It is an eternal and beautiful loop. When you stop judging the contrast and stop panicking at the discomfort, when you realize the emotional gap is not a sign of failure but a sign of expansion, life softens. It stops being a battle and becomes navigation, becomes art. It becomes a relationship between the you that is becoming and the you that is catching up. From this place, everything changes. Manifestations speed up. Peace feels normal. Clarity feels familiar. Joy returns as something accessible. Desire becomes exciting again instead of painful. Life begins to feel like a co-creation rather than a struggle. So let this become your simple mantra. Nothing is more important than how I feel. I will reach for the best feeling thought that is available to me right now. Not perfect alignment in one leap, not bliss on demand. Just one step higher on the scale, a little more relief, a little more ease. That is enough to change everything.